So we can see right away there's 3 sites that you're paying too much for to not be seen too much. And there's 3 sites that are working really well. So it's pretty simple to see what part of your budget, and these percentages are percent of the budget. So you can see Vivo, 17%, 12, 15, almost 50% of the budget's not working.
As predicted.
So, so we move those ad dollars to the ones that are, and we've just increased the number of ads seen 28%. We've lowered the cost to be seen 27%, and 82% more time spent looking at the brand with no change in budget. And this makes brands very happy because you're optimizing your investment. And basically the way it's done here, you just zero these out, put them where you want, and the dashboard you can play around with. You can decide where you want to move things. And this will all change as you move them.
So how long do you follow a viewer, or like how long do you follow someone, or people that are on a certain website?
We're targeting the ad when the ad is.
Right, but during a long period, or what are we talking about? How long do you
when they're
have
on the
to have?
page with the ad.
Right, but for you to go back to the client to give them the right
Oh, I see. Okay.
statistics,
Yeah.
how long do you need to?
Typically, most campaigns are 3 to 5 months.
Right.
And we have some that are shorter, some that are longer, but average is 3 to 5. And the first snapshot is after a week.
After a week already?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you get a snapshot a week, and then typically our clients optimize every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That's they'll do snapshot. Yes.
How do you recruit the people who actually view the ads, and how do you make sure they get to the sites that you monitor?
3 different ways. Let me get to it.
Right.
I'm coming to that. I'll answer you now. I won't forget.
Find the way.
3 different ways. If you really want to target a specific target, we'll actually push the ad to them. We also have a browser extension that will be tagged on, and so that people will when the ad is served, the webcam comes on, and then which is they have to initially allow us to do it, and then when the ad's served, the webcam comes on, and then publishers will actually tag it on their site to their ad. Typically, we're targeting not all their ads, the high CPM ads, because those are the branding ads.
Oh, the activity is quite different depending if you push them to the ads or if you just serve it as the end up to those sites.
Right.
I just want to try to, so you're not just tracking if it's been seen, can you also track if they're being seen by the right people?
If we're pushing it to them, yes. If it's just coming up on the site, we don't know the specific person that's looking at it. We know we know from Comscore Nielsen what the percentage of each target, the demographics are, but you can't guarantee that that particular target is on at that time. It really depends. Like P&G likes to do the push because they only want, if it's Pantene, women 25 to 49, they only want women 25 to 49 to see that ad. They don't want anyone else looking at it. So they like to be very specific on the target. The clients decide. And a publisher's dashboard, this is basically different clients on their site. What publishers do, it's kind of interesting. AOL came up with an idea we never thought of. They want to get advertisers that don't advertise with them to advertise with them, which is what everyone else wants to do too. And so what they decided to do was take MSN and Yahoo and go on their homepage and look at advertisers that they don't have. And then we would take that ad and mock up an AOL page with that same ad, and then we would test MSN, Yahoo, and AOL. And it'd be the same ad, same homepage, they all have the same ad size on the homepage, slightly different positions, and then we give them the results: percent seen, how long seen, what order on the page. And then when AOL wins, they go to the advertiser and say, you should be advertising with us, here's why. Instead of we're better looking and taller and smarter, whatever, we actually have real numbers to prove that you should be here. And it's been working very well for them. We also, for a publisher, Google uses us on YouTube. Because branding on YouTube, again, clicks are irrelevant. I'm going to show you a sample of that, where they actually created their own normative database of just YouTube homepage ads, so that they can tell a brand, are you scoring higher than the average on YouTube? And that's how we've had publishers be able to increase CPMs based on that. So what publishers typically do, they literally test their sites and competitor sites. That's because they want to be able to figure out how to get revenue. And this is, it's kind of hard to see, but basically what the publisher's doing, they're identifying which sites are they beating and using that to get more of the ad dollar. And this is a great example because sometimes it's not the publisher, sometimes it's a creative. You know, creative, those are two factors, but sometimes it is the publisher. And this is an ad that was run in 2 sites. These are overseas. I think some of the Swedish folks might know them. And they ran the exact same ad, almost in the exact same position. They've been advertising on these 2 sites for years because according to Nielsen and ComScore, this is the demographics they should be on. So they've been always doing it, but they want to see, you know, is there a difference? So you can see that same ad units, and the difference was pretty dramatic. If you look at the panorama here, 77% of people saw it for 2.6 seconds. Same ad here, 37% saw it for 1 second. So what they realized is one of these publishers is not performing. They repositioned the dollars to the one that is, and they increased the number of impressions seen 35% and the time 68%, with no change in budget. So this is, again, another example of how a brand can, this was L'Oreal, can optimize where they could never do this before. And this is just another great example. Sony almost doubled the time spent without changing the budget. Now, agencies don't like it, but sometimes the brands want to lower their, they may want to only move 30% over and put the rest in their pocket and still increase their, the agencies usually don't like that, but brands sometimes want to change their budget, do that. This was a study we just finished. We had 10 different brands across 5 different sites. And it's quite interesting when you look at all of them were 100% viewable. And if you look at the percent seen, it ranged from Washington Post did the best on their 2 ads, 50 and 40%, and excuse me, Yardbarker, only down to 10 and 20%. And again, when you're a brand, you want to know what's being seen. I mean, basically, that's why you're online. You want to be seen. And this is just another example. Washington Post was the strongest at 51, and in style, 10%. So if you're a brand, you're going to stop using in style. And if you're Washington Post, you might be able to raise your CPMs. And if you're in style, you may want to reevaluate how your site's laid out. So even if you're not winning, you can use it for your benefit to improve. I did have one major publisher, which I spoke to about this, and they said, we don't want people to know if our ads are seen or not. And so I said, good luck. Because eventually, we're testing right now the top 200 sites in the US and in UK. And we are going to start selling that data by Q2 of next year, where we're going to have an index on all these sites. And we have Media Post and Business Insider, all these people wanting to get this data, but we're not giving it to anybody because it's going to be extremely valuable for publishers, advertisers, agencies to know what is the index. It's also going to help for creative too, because let's say hypothetically Yahoo's index is 70 on their top ad, and your ad's 90. Well, you know that your agency is great, your creative agency. Or let's say your ad comes out to the 50, you need a new creative agency because you're way below the norm. So we're going to be able to tell about creative, but we're also going to be able to tell about publishers. And in this particular example, we had of the 100% impressions, 46 were viewable, 14 were seen. We think in the big picture, and really nobody knows anything, is that the good publishers are going to be able to have higher CPMs because it's worth it. The bad publishers are going to have to reposition where their ads are or lower their CPMs. We also believe that eventually there'll be less ads, cost more, less ads, and consumers will be happier. Because I don't know about anyone else, but you know, a site that's blowing all these ads all over you, sometimes it's upsetting. You're looking for that X. Because you can find it. And then they hide it left and right, and you got to guess. And this is the time in screen, how much time was spent. And it ranged from 2.7 seconds to Washington Post to 1.5. which 1.2 seconds is a long time more to look at an ad. And if you're not looking at an ad for at least half a second half a second is the minimum to get any kind of registration in the brain. The last company I was with, we did EEG on people. We measured people's brain waves while they looked at commercials and packages. And that was a company that Nielsen bought. And a lot of very interesting ways on how the brain works, which we actually took some of the best practices. And I spoke with someone earlier, and we incorporated a lot of that in what we do, and also testing, which I'll share some of them with you, that we've done literally hundreds of thousands of studies to validate from eye tracking some of these best practices, which I'll share some with you with your. With all of our clients, we go through a best practices deck. And this again just showing the Washington Post 2.7, Yardbarker 1.5. And then this is a study, very recent study, Gatorade, advertising these 5 sites. Of the 5 sites, 4 of them have the exact same ad, and Yardbarker has a different ad. They're all viewable, they're all on screen, but the results are pretty dramatic. Sports Illustrated, only 13% saw this ad. Up to Rand Sport. And I think I mentioned to you briefly about the Cadbury study. And I'll briefly tell you one of the best practices that we share is the way the brain works. The right side of the brain processes images, and the left side is text and numbers. The brain works in inverse relationship. So ideally, you would like to have your image on the left side and your text and number on the right. And that Cadbury was a great example of going from 95% seeing it on the left, the same ad on the right middle, went to 9%. And if you don't do it that way, the brain literally has to flip it. And when I show people, when I look at people's business cards, I always say, you got it right, because you want to have your image here and your text numbers in the middle over here. Because if you do it this way, the brain has to flip it. That's just where brains work. And we did an in-store study with a major potato chip company where they had it backwards on their in-store visual. And we told them, change it in 3 stores, see what happens. They had a 3% increase in sales. And now they're doing it everywhere. Just from making that one change. They had a woman running, looking over her shoulder on the wrong side, and we just switched everything the other way. And it's just, that's where brains work. And this is showing the percent seen. As you can see, it's pretty dramatic. And again, by getting rid of the sites that aren't working, increasing number of ads seen 43%. And this is a really nice one. This is Revlon. Again, 100% viewable. And you'll see that there's a few different variety of ads, but pretty much they're all the same images. And this is real dramatic. You have 9%, but it's above the main area, all the way to 65% below. And we find anytime you put something way at the top, not good. Not good to be seen. And so again, you can see, this is where you really have to do some diagnostic. What are you paying for this? What are you paying for this? And this could be worth paid a quarter of this price. It's still overpriced. Now I want to talk a little bit about the iTrack shop powered by Sticky. Again, I told you we were iTrack shop to start with. And tell me what time-wise. Right, I didn't have much one time, I'm sorry.
10, 15 minutes, you know, wrap it up.
No, I just want to know how much you go for. 15 minutes?
Keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Anyone can leave whenever they want.
Can I ask you another question?
Ask me too.
So I'm curious what your business model is. How do you charge your clients?
We make it really simple. Brand comes to us, they want to test 20 ads, 20 ad placements. It can be the same ad in 20 places, it can be 20 different ads, whatever. We charge how many we test for how many months. So at 20 ads, you're going to get $12,000 a month for how many months you test it. It's very inexpensive.
Okay.
Very, very. And that's why it's ideal for big brands, because when you're spending $100,000 a month, and you find out that 50% you can reposition, that becomes very affordable. It's the real ROI. That's as Matthias said. We want people to just get a little pregnant. Just try it.
But it seemed that of what you had shown us so far, you were looking at where they were placing them currently in publications, as opposed to where they might place them that they haven't done it yet.
We do that too.
Oh,
I just
okay.
was showing you, these are
Okay.
real examples, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we're gonna talk, this was how our company started with iTrack Shop. This is a YouTube ad for McDonald's.
Mhm.
And this is what a deliverable looks like from our market research side. First thing you're gonna see is a heat map to see what did they see and what didn't they see. The darker color is where they spent most of their time. So
Mhm.
what's nice is they did focus big on McDonald's. This is called an opacity map.
A
And
what?
it's opacity, it's a
Yeah.
reverse heat map. It fits, you can't see it here,
Yep.
that means they didn't see
They
it.
didn't see it.
So you can see, this is probably the most talked about piece, because typically an agency will give us 5 creatives. We'll test them. And we had one agency say they always used to fight with Verizon with the client. They would say, this is the best ad, and Verizon said, no, this is the best ad, because it's their money, Verizon got their way. Now they don't tell them what's the best ad, they just show them this. And then they always pick the same thing.
Yes.
Because it's not based on opinion. Typically, an agency decision is made by the senior person who's the loudest. And now it's based on facts. So these are,
Tells you a lot about visual perception,
yeah,
these maps, a lot.
but it's a fact, it's not opinion.
Do you number those? Yes. Well, he pays me to
That was
ask
good. So this is what we call the fixation order. How do they look at this page? And what's nice is for McDonald's and for Google, McDonald's is the first thing they looked at. Not only is the first thing, it took them 0.6 of a second to focus on it, which is extremely fast. Now, here, almost 7 seconds, which this is basically invisible. And you can see the order here. And so this tells you a lot. Now, Google can go to McDonald's and say to them, look, your ad's seen first. They saw it fast. And Google breaks the page up A through F. For example, area A. AOI is area of interest. 40% of the people saw it. The average for that position on YouTube's homepage is 48%. So it was below. They looked at it for 0.4 of a second. Over here at McDonald's, everyone saw it, which was significantly more than the average YouTube ad, and they looked at it for dramatically more than the average. And so now McDonald's is not that concerned with clicks. They just want to make sure people see it. And how long did they look at it, and then when did they see it? Then we go through a few questions. We ask about ad recall, brand recall, and purchase intent. And that basically depends on what the client is interested in.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Do you also test different kinds of ads for the same, not the placement, but actual.
Individual
this
creative,
picture
yes.
was more
Typically,
interesting for people
yeah,
to see.
typically what they'll do first is they'll test the creative,
Right.
and then test placement.
Okay.
When they pick which
So-
creative, right.
Yeah.
And that can be online, it can be print, it can be TV. Yes.
When you're looking at visual, the patterns, is it different for men and women?
It depends. It depends. If you're doing Victoria's Secret, it might be a little different.
Right.
If you're doing WWF,
Right.
in fact, I might be able to show this, we have time, we did an H&M bikini ad. And they want to know how men and women looked at it. And amazingly enough, the men looked at the face first, women looked at the body first. Now,
Wow.
men spent more time on the body, but they did look at the face first, which we did not think that was going to happen. Yeah, and then there was a Reebok ad over in Europe where the woman has no clothes on. She's like this, wearing Reebok shoes. And the men never looked at the shoes. No. So it depends on what
Right.
men and women are going to look at certain things differently.
Right. Well, I was wondering if the pattern, because you're talking about left brain and right brain
That's
processing.
universal, as long as you don't have a problem with your brain.
Okay.
That's everyone's brain, that's how we process. And I'll give you another best practice, we'll throw one in here. If you look on my card, you notice it's round edges. And you'll notice that a lot of cards have pointy edges. And we are conditioned as humans that pointy things hurt. And there's literally a millisecond of an avoidance response, anything we see pointing. And it's very small, but it's enough for companies to realize that it's much better to have round edges. And if you look at Apple, you won't find any pointing. Everything, plugs, batteries, everything. It literally brings people in. It's subtle, it's little, but those things matter.
We did ours very similar.
Now, this is a video, an online video. Again, it's a YouTube ad, Procter & Gamble for a woman's razor. And when we do video, we actually will do, now they were just testing women, but if they're testing men and women, we'll actually show the patterns of how men and women look at the video. So here you can see what they're looking at while the video is showing. And you'll notice sometimes you're not looking at the video. And also you'll notice that there are times at the beginning of the video, they showed the product, and then they showed at the end. And what you're going to see here is what percentage of the people are looking at the video at different frames. So you can identify when are they looking away, and you'll notice when they go to the floor here, it goes down, she starts shaving her leg, it goes up. And then the last thing that all brands want to know, you're running a video, you have your brand. Are they looking at it? That's the question. So now, we isolate the brand on the shelf, using the product, the brand at the end. What percentage of people are actually looking at it? There's no other way to get this. It's really powerful when you're running a video. You know, it can play, but are they looking at it?
How big is the sample size or something like that? Is it 30 or 2 or 100?
With eye tracking, when we do the eye tracking for the market research,
Yeah.
typically 30 people.
Okay.
When you're doing biometric measurements, the standard deviation levels out usually around 20, 25. We oversample to 30. And then this is a sample of it on the iPad. And we've just launched the iPad application. And again, you have this movie trailer. The studios want to know, are we looking at the trailer? What are we looking at? And what aren't we looking at? And again, the beautiful scalability is you can literally test anywhere in the world at the same time. And this was a study that was just done in 4 countries, same thing. Google with Samsung. And then we ask questions about ad recall, brand identification, likability, opinion, and purchase intent. And you can just see which ad on which visual did the best.
So this is probably a dumb question, but
No dumb
do you have
question.
anybody test ads?
Do you
Like,
have
I guess,
anybody?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense to test display ads, right? Does anybody test, like using your technology to test text ads?
Text ads?
Yeah.
Just text, nothing else?
Yeah. I don't
Not that many people. Most people are doing for creative
I would
because
think, yeah.
text is, you know, there's a lot of ads that have a lot of text in it. But typically, if you have too much text, which is another best practice, if you have too much text, people aren't going to read it. And we have what's called the pop-out paradigm. If you have any kind of sentences, you need to pop something out. The most important part of that sentence should be in a different font, a different color, something to pop out. Because if they don't read the most important thing, you can be sure they're not going to read the rest of it. So text is not, it's not a big thing.
Brings up a good point about those are tablets. What about the smaller format, ads on the smaller format phone, like, you know, Facebook and Twitter, where you're trying to maximize,
2014.
monetize? You're gonna be testing more smart
We're
format-
going to have
format?
our technology done with beta to start testing on smartphones.
Okay.
Now, this is just my...
Any inclinations about that or thoughts?
Yeah, personally,
Yeah.
as much as there's tons of money online, when you look at a smartphone,
Yeah.
I mean, on a phone, you basically have, right now, 3 places. You have the top, you have the bottom, and you have page takeovers. You have a much smaller area
Right.
for options.
Right.
So My personal
More
feeling is,
challenging,
my
huh?
personal feeling is that the pricing on phones is gonna go way down.
What does the descending red arrow under Finland mean?
We basically are, they're comparing, if you look at 93, 86, 84, and 63, they were significantly less than everyone else.
Okay.
They were just comparing the four.
Okay.
That's, yes.
So I think the Samsung Galaxy or something, there's a phone out right now that I think it pauses when you look away.
Yeah.
Something like that. Is that the same technology, and how's it gonna?
It's not exactly the same, it is eye tracking now, but it's not telling you what you're looking at, how long, it's not telling you, it's not, it's very basic.
Oh, okay.
Has anyone used it? Because the people I've talked to in New York who used it, they disconnect it, because it goes off, sometimes they don't want to go off.
Oh.
And, but it's cool, I mean, it's,
In order to make this work, it was some kind of precision on this that makes it practical, right, on the eye tracking. Did it take a long time to achieve that on the webcam? You obviously had it before in other areas.
about 2 years.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is this still a significant development for you to increase that precision, especially with the mobile phones that are so small?
The phones is another challenge because you have a lot of moving parts. When we first, right, everything's moving. You know, I don't know how it is here, but in New York, people walk down the street like this. It's the same thing here. There's actually a city in New Jersey that just passed a law, they give you a ticket for texting while walking.
Are there mostly seniors in that city?
I don't think so. But that's a good question. The technology, the big advantage that we have is having a relationship with Tobii. Tobii had 12 years of the best technology. They have 30 patents. They have 97 technicians. And so we didn't start from scratch. Because they invested in us. Really, they were smart. They knew someone was going to do this, and it made more sense for them to be involved in it than someone else doing.
For about 2 years of adaptation of the previous algorithms to make it
Yes.
work.
And then it took another, almost a year for the tablet. And we've been working on this for a while on the phone. It's just, it's, and that's why most of our companies are all tech people.
So you mentioned P&G in there. Have you done it at the brick and mortar level where the in-store location of product and comparison to see, or is that too difficult as far as?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
When we first came out, we had Nielsen, Ipsos, Millward Brown, and others who said, how accurate you compared to the hardware that cost $50,000, $80,000. And we just told them, test it. So they would do a test on the hardware and then send us the stimuli. We'd send the results back. And they never told us what they were, but they use us, so we figured that's the answer.
Nice.
When you do the question about the ad recall, are you asking them about the commercial, or or are you asking them, in the case of the video, are you asking about the commercial, or are you asking about the brand? You're asking that. Because sometimes, I mean, you can remember a commercial, but actually not remember what the brand is.
You're
or who was
right,
doing it.
and that's why, like, for example, how easy or difficult was it to identify the brand in this ad? Well, this is a scale of 1 to 5, 3.6, 3. They're all pretty much the same. The client may ask for specific questions. We will give benchmarks on these because these are standard questions. If they do customs, we don't have a benchmark for it, but they may ask about the ad, they may ask about the brand. Typically, we show it, and then we will even have sometimes where it'll say, what was the brand? And just open end. It gets very interesting answers there.
What was the ad for? What is it that we don't see? Is it the phones or?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Galaxy
Yeah.
S4?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not seeing that
Yeah.
well. I need a better contact lenses. No, I'm just curious, since Sweden has such a high, I was just kind of.
Ad recall is very high,
Compared to all the others.
and purchase intent, right.
Yeah, Sweden has a high.
They're pretty
Are
technically
they selling
advanced.
better there too? Yeah.
I mean, they're one of the most technically advanced, for online being connected in the world. Someone told me because it's dark half the year. I've only been there in the summer, so it's light all the time.
That's true.
Yeah, but it's no dark, it's no
And then people want to
It's the
test their
same
ad
across.
on the desktop versus the tablet. So basically, any kind of communication, I'll give you some unique ones. Goldman Sachs asked us to test PowerPoint presentations. We never thought of doing that, ever. But when I came into the office, we were having a marketing battle about their old PowerPoint and their new one, which slides to use. And I didn't know this, and I showed them this and said, hey, we should do our PowerPoint presentation. So we did. It was 17 pages of one, 15 of another, and then they were able to identify which pages and no one's comprehending anything, and which, so we never thought of that.
Brilliant.
Have you thought of adding sound to track snoring or something?
Yeah, that's funny.
And this is just a comparison. You can see that the fixed area showing the product image and the logo was higher on the desktop than the tablet. And the moving area on the video was higher on the tablet than the desktop. So that you can really identify what's working, what's not, how to improve it. Now I'll get into, this is what I mentioned about, it's an H&M ad on Google. And what they're doing now is basically telling people, how are you scoring versus the norm? So in this particular example, 6% more impressions are seen than the norm, 39% more time spent, so they can make H&M very happy by not worrying about clicks. And this is AOL came out with the Devil unit. I don't know if you guys heard of this. It was about a year and a half ago. It's a big monster unit here, and they called it the Devil unit, and they wanted to charge a lot more. So they used us to validate that it's seen more often, and seen longer. And they used this to go out with their sales team to get higher CPMs.
Never heard.
Devil unit?
Did it work?
Do you go to AOL?
Never.
That's why.
Millions of years.
Yeah, it was a big news thing. I would tell you, AOL's a big client of ours, and they're really very proactive. You know, they had some challenges for a while. They're really working really hard to improve their image, and they're doing a lot of good things. They're really, really
Drop dial-up, man, and move on.
Any questions?
Are you
Yes?
able to track them by